Yeah, well, good morning, everybody. Hello on the YouTube and Twitch and on Instagram. We've got we've got Sinaloa Farm, we've got Ethan Kelly, and Outdoor Cannon Ninja, who's gone and coming back. We'll see you soon, dude. Chipsoy, how you going, bro? Good to see you. A little bit late today. We needed some coffee, extra coffee. It's an all the coffee kind of day. Yeah, so I figured I'd just come on and hang out for a little while, answer some questions if you got some. We missed last week's live because we were on the road up in Brisbane. We went up to Fran's Hydroponics up there and did a sort of demo day and spread the word of the dirt. Turpin. Yeah. Give me a react or something like that if you can hear the audio from coming through today. It shows that I am. I've got improved chords this week. Still foil tape holding the microphone on. Yeah, so we'll just hang out, listen to a bit of music, see if it'll kick us off for that. Burn City Buds. And see what sort of stuff, what sort of questions you've got. There's always stuff that I can go over, of course. Still getting the new website up and fully tuned up. Yo, Leapy and Frosty Green Trees. Still getting the website sort of tuned up a little bit. There's a few things missing from there. There's some recipes that we had on the old site and some usage tips, but we're getting there. It's all being sorted, so many thanks to those who are helping me with that demo. And who have we got there? I think we've got someone on the YouTube. Yeah, we've got someone watching on YouTube. Could even be my folks. You and your folks, me and my folks. I've been messing around with the light soil a lot lately, actually. Doing some fun little experiments with that. It's kind of those ones that sort of doesn't get enough love sometimes, I think. So, but it's the fact that it's a bit more simple is actually kind of its advantage. It's you can do some unique things with it. Flower Faye, hello. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So we did the Greened Out team. Hang on, dude. Actually, do I have voice effect on? What's going on? No, I think it's fine. All right, cool. Yeah, so the day went pretty good. I turned the music down a little bit. The demo day went pretty good. We went up. I flew up there. Boy, my arms are tired. And yeah, we did a bit of a talk. Sort of went over a few things. Basically, just kind of trying to explain more how the products work and how you can get the most out of them, and also just kind of some little tips on using the soil, getting started with all that sort of stuff. So we actually codified some of those and put them on the site now. So if you sort of click through from the product page, there's a bit more detail up there now. Just some recommendations on watering and water type, thoughts on pH adjustment, and some auxiliary products that we do that can sort of be helpful in the establishment phase. So yeah, but I mean, overall, it was pretty good. People's knowledge on soil is certainly growing. Um, they're understanding a lot more about it, and so yeah, um, it was a fun day, very enjoyable. And thanks to everyone that sort of came along. Grow Green Daddy came along, got to meet up with him and some other cool people up there. Oh yeah, and In the Loop as well. Yeah, so I got to meet up with some people. Um, yeah, so getting back to the light soil sort of thing, one thing that I've been doing is sort of experimenting with mixing portions of the Herb Superb into the light soil before potting up, just to sort of, say augment it. So, veg plants, putting some supergrass in there, the green one, um, just to sort of give it a little bump before I put plants into it. And yeah, it's been working out pretty good. Doing that. Also, it's cold at the moment, so this, soil and all the rest of it like that slows down. All the biology slows down when the temperatures get colder. So I've been experimenting with some tea brews and various things like that, sort of activated brews, using the Herb Superb and some compost, or even just dirt as the microbe source, with some pretty good results as well. So trying to maintain a high level of activity even in the colder weather. Sweet Baby May and David Allen. What's going on, dude? I appreciate the people that give me tips on the audio as well, because I can't always hear it. So yeah, I, say trying that with the supergrass one, doing it with a bit of balance on some autos, just pre-planting, and then finding, not really having to top dress much at all throughout most of their flowering cycle. So yeah, just sort of having fun with different ratios, playing around with that, and finding that that particular soil is very flexible that way. The water-only soils are a bit more set and forget, because you're trying to create an environment where everything's got what it needs for the whole crop cycle, right? The light soil is a bit more flexible in that it's got most of what you need there, but you can kind of play around with adding a bit more of this or that. Even if you want to, you could turn it into a full-on water only if you wanted to. But yeah, as it stands, it's a fun little soil, like fast draining, pretty quick dry back on it. Which, talking about teas too, it's an advantage with them. You can apply more of them. Been MIA, have you, David? Oh, moving is the worst. So, yeah, and good morning, Sweet Baby May. And similarly, so mega yield into the light soil for a flowering mix. It's a pretty cool blend. So adding a bit of that at the start, tiny bit of Stone Age in there as well sometimes, and then yeah, experimenting with these different sort of brews. So basically a compost tea at one point, and then a nutrient tea, which I've sort of spoken about before. Mm-hmm. Hey, here we grow. G'day, Maddie. How you doing, man? It's good to see you. So yeah, mate. For some certain cultivars, really like a very potassium and phosphorus sort of dominant mix sometimes, and so yeah, a light soil augmented with mega yield, pre flowering, and then adding teas throughout. in the wintertime works out quite well, and especially in the colder temperatures, a soil that drains a bit faster and has a bit of a faster dryback is an advantage, because with the LED lights, you don't have as much of the radiant heat that you used to be able to enjoy from the HID lights. So that just sort of makes the biology a bit slower. You can kind of augment that. Stealth Garden, what's going on? And Sweet Baby May's following the Grow Guide. That's great. We added Aussie Stoners. Nice to see you too. We added a detail page on that as well. So it's all up on the website now. Currently there's light soil, full spec, and island blend grow charts based on a 12-week cycle. And then we added a detail page because, you know, I made a guide that was so, what do we call it, artistic, that that it can be a bit difficult to follow if you're used to a sort of linear square guide. So anyway, yeah, there's we actually gave away a lot of those up at Friends over the weekend. So yeah, but I mean, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to read. All the information's kind of laid out there. It's just a matter of kind of, it's like those old treasure map things you used to have as a kid. You need the key to be able to read it properly, to be able to read the map. Critter Candy, nice to see you. And yeah, super awesome to see a bunch of people in here. It's really cool. Lachlan, how you going there? Yeah, so the guides are good. They're a good guide. They'll show you a lot of what you need to do in terms of timing. They're not something to where you kind of have to adhere to them religiously. They're just meant to give you kind of an overview and an idea on mainly timing, but also some tips on watering and application as well. So a lot of people sort of don't realize with soil and with the additives kind of how far they go once you actually start diluting them down, because your application rate of water is less generally when you're gardening organically, and the dosages of our products are quite concentrated. So those two things combined mean that, you know, our stuff isn't the cheapest to buy up front, but at the same time it lasts a long time, especially if you store it right. Oh, in the loop. Hang on, wait a minute. I'll do a massive, like, through the internet fist bump. There we go. It's just for you in the loop. And hi to Lachlan. I think I might have shouted you out before, but I'll double shout out you. There you go. Yeah, so they give you a good overview. Try to put as much detail in there as I could. And there's a bit of fun in there as well, in terms of, the character Groku, his origin story and some stuff like that. If you're not into fun, you can just ignore that part. That's why I put it right at the bottom of the guide to the guide. So go and read the guide to the guide if you're interested. I took forever to get those things out. So, yeah, I appreciate when people check them out. Someone did ask too, by the way, like what happens if your plants get super big and you end up having to water more frequently than the guide recommends? Do you feed more, or do you just sort of go water only in between the applications? I personally think that you're better off just sticking to the amount of feeds per week we recommend in the guide and just adding water in between should you so need that. So yeah, say, you know, you're meant to water on a Wednesday, but, you know, you're finding you're having to water on a Tuesday, but then you want to feed again. So you're basically having to water a bit more often. Just use water in between. There's no need to really feed more if you're just topping up the moisture levels. Same as with your top dressings. if you're going to top dress more often, just apply less. So you can either go less more often, or you can go a bit more less often. I tend to like to do it periodically rather than continually. But some people like to apply little bits on a routine basis. That's some of the stuff that I'm kind of experimenting with at the moment, with light soil, furthering the charts, furthering the guides. TL came out to hang out with us on the Saturday, which was fun. It was cool to see you. You're a cool dude. A carbon capturer of sorts.
The greatest mistake your boy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey brother, can you paradigm? And that's the shit
Had
we
lots of
just take
feedback on the new
causes the earth to crush.
Grow Dirt full spec bag labels. Some like them, some don't. I like them more. But what you'll find on the back of the bags now is there's a lot more detail. So originally it kind of used to read like, well, I mean, the idea was like you would sort of have a at the bottom of those movie posters where they have like, you know, the director starring, like all that kind of stuff. Kind of wanted it to look like that, which is great. It sort of lays out a whole bunch of stuff there, but at the same time doesn't really tell you what a lot of that stuff's doing or what it's there for. So some people had said that to me, so we kind of reformatted the back label now and jazzed that up a little bit, added some detail there. So there's little boxes now all the way that orbit around the center part, and it kind of explains what the various components kind of do, lays out more of the microbes and the inoculations that we use. Yeah, just a bit more detail on there. So, and yeah, you know, pimped out the front a bit more. The front labels now have just kind of patterned them up a little bit more and prettied those up a little bit. So it's one of the advantages of being small run is you can kind of, yeah, you're not kind of married to stuff for too long. But yeah, a lot of people trying that one for the first time. Some people kind of weirded out by the cork, but try it out. It's the coolest thing I've probably added to a soil in a very, very long time.
Shape of things that come. Instant replays, a place to come came. Went time well spent.
Oh, the Dirty Talk potline is also open as well. 0417 076 598. Should you want to call in or leave a voicemail. I think some people have called it just to see if it was a real number. It definitely is.
And can you paradigm? Shape of things that come. Ooh. She will naked like she will naked like she will naked like the word free was inscribed on her mind.
One there from Aussie Stoners. What's my favourite LED lights to use at the moment? I don't know. I mean, we've tried the high power ones. There's sort of, I think they're about 630 watts, something like that. They're pretty powerful to the point where, yeah, kind of took us by surprise, I guess, at first. Messed some things up that were underneath one. But yeah, I like them. They seem quite reliable. Had a lot of experience lately with the Spider Farmer stuff. It seems pretty good. Some of the test guys are running AC Infinity. Good stuff, good reports. Works all with that controller gear that AC do. So yeah, it's all good. I mean, there's little differences between things. It all seems fairly comparable these days. You know, I mean, I know that there's some obvious quality differences in various steps, but like if lamps are similarly priced, they all seem to be similar quality across the board with various little differences that will amount to kind of personal preference, it seems. But yeah, and obviously it's an advancing area, so there's always something new in that. It's hard to keep up with it. But people always have some recommendations too, so feel free to whack them in there. Use the Progro ones now. Yeah, cool. Soil Farmer, Phillips Lucky, and Growers Hub. Cool to see you guys. Yeah, so it seems to be something that people are changing them out quite a bit. But yeah, they're certainly a lot more powerful than they were, you know, 3 or 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. We've got it down a lot more now.
She wears naked like the word free was inscribed on her mind. She's free. She's fully dressed in a birthday suit, innocent shooting in the raw. She be wearing the hell out of nudity. And she's a fashion statement.
But yeah, getting organics to work to a really high level under the LEDs in the colder weather is definitely something that every year seems to be something that we're trying to make better, because yeah, the HID lights kind of made life a little bit easier in some ways because it was a dry heat and they provided a fair bit of room heat. It's definitely a disadvantage in the warmer weather, but in the colder weather, it was a perfect sort of a thing. So the LEDs have the power, and they do obviously have a little bit of heat that comes off them, but it doesn't kind of blast down through the canopy and kind of warm up the soil. So yeah, some people are running heaters of various different types. The greenhouse heaters seem to be a pretty good option, mainly due to the fact you can get it into the room, and various other creative options. But that seems to be pretty important. You need to keep the soil warm to keep everything in there functioning at a high level so that it can actually provide enough food to the plant. So it's no good having a really bright canopy if everything's so cold and slow that the biology isn't keeping up. Phillips Lucky, wondering about antimatter and Green Supreme for cloning. Yeah, I use the antimatter as a dip for the stem, and I use Green Supreme as a foliar spray. So throughout the cloning process, so I find that antimatter used as a stem dip seems to prevent a lot of like sort of pathogens and stuff, things that would normally jump onto the stem and rot it before it would get a chance to create roots. The fungi that are in antimatter also have a root proliferation effect. So once callousing and root formation starts, it kind of, theoretically at least, and observationally, seems to make all that happen a lot quicker. And then I use Green Supreme throughout to help preserve the energy reserves, relieve stress. It's got salicylic compounds in there from the aloe, kelp, and all that sort of stuff like that. All those auxins and cytokines all help with getting roots on it and relieving stress. So that's kind of what I do. Cloning that way is maybe a little slower than what it is if you're using hormone gels and whatnot, but at the same time you're having to use hormone gels, so there is that. And I'm not talking drastically lower, like slower, maybe an extra few days. The main thing to keep in mind is not overwatering. Aussie Stoners, yeah. I mean, same blend, just a different label, so you'll see those. What temps do I prefer? I like it around 24 to about 27. That's kind of the sweet spot where I kind of like it. I don't like it to dip too far under 20 if I can avoid it. And I don't like it to go over 30 if I can avoid it. If you're running CO2, you can run higher temperatures. The trouble with that is that you'll achieve bulkier flowers, but you won't achieve better quality flowers, because running higher temperatures means that you kind of off gas and I don't know, somewhat degrade the more medicinal compounds that you're looking for. So you'll end up with a bigger flower, just less stuff on it. Seems to be the at least anecdotal, and we've tried it a lot, and that seems to always be the case. Rhinoceros and Jimbo Baggins. And no worries, Phillips. It does work. A lot of people do it that way. That's how they clone. And yeah, shout outs to Steve from Homegrown at Thornton for getting me onto that tip early. He figured that one out. Exotic Alchemy. Nice to see you. Dank Dan. Hey, everyone give a massive shout out to Dank Dan. He's a trooper. Real trooper. Same to you, dude. It's nice to see you here. And Causa. Nice to see you too, dude. But yeah, temperature is pretty important. In the older days, they used to recommend you would run a higher EC with your salts in the colder weather. So yeah, with you can't do that with soil. You're not running salts, so you need to make sure that you keep the biology functioning high enough. That's where brewing teas tends to be like, I don't really do it in the warmer weather. I'm a top dressing sort of a person. I prefer to do that. But in the colder weather, having that stuff as quickly available as possible can be a real advantage, shaving a few days off. And thus the choice to utilize the light soil, faster dryback. I'm going to be experimenting with some blue mats a bit more too. Some people have sent me some new calibration techniques on those, so haven't had the best of luck with them in the past, but never say never. We'll give them another go. A lot of people really like them, so I want to try and at least develop a method where I'm proficient at them, even if I still prefer to be just stubborn and hand water stuff. I want to get more proficient at them, just so that we can kind of troubleshoot them a bit more and optimize programs and things for them. The Grow Guide now too, by the way, Baby May has some recommendations on temperatures and all that sort of stuff too, because that's what we've kind of based it on. So that was one of the sticking points when I was doing the guide was, okay, so you want to get this many feeds in per week. So everyone's grow is different. How do you kind of do that? Obviously, feeding is tied to watering, and oftentimes, I mean, in the case of top dressing, it's not, but with the power boosters and grow biotics, for instance. So yeah, we based it on an average temperature. Yeah, so as long as your temperatures are within those ranges and your pot sizes are within that kind of range that we recommend in the guide, then you should have similar results. I mean, there's always going to be variation, but yeah. Rhinoceros there, hand watering for the win. Yeah, I'm gonna, yeah, I'll probably I'll be buried with a dram watering wand, I think. I really like that method, that methodology. And I suppose once you get good at it too, it's hard to substitute something else. That being said, though, it's not for everyone, so it pays to do the work. Twin Flame, cool to see you. He's got some mad projects at the moment. You should go and check out his stuff. Working at it for a long time. Cool to see some stuff come out. It's wicked. Howdy, howdy. Oh, that's right. I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but we finally got around to getting Mojo available in some bigger sizes. So we've got it in 125 gram and 250 gram cylinders now. So just like the other ones, like antimatter and dark matter and that sort of stuff, you can now buy them in the taller cylinders if you're a heroic doser of the Mojo, and you're just going through that stuff way too much. We haven't yet got to sizes larger than that, so we'll see how we go. Oh yeah, I suppose. So yeah, that's another one too, is like root temperatures. So if your room's sitting at about 24, the roots should be anywhere between 20 and 22. That's going to be, you know, a nice temperature to keep them at. You can go a little bit higher, but try not to let it get too far below like 18 degrees. That's kind of where things really start to slow down. So if you touch your back of your hand to the soil and it feels really cold, it is really cold. So that's where introducing some heat might be necessary. The other thing you should really be doing too, re-watering, is taking the chill off your water. It might seem like a really common sense thing to do, but not a lot of people do it. And that's, yeah, you don't want to be watering things with freezing cold water. So yeah, boil a bit, or you know, if you've got a clean hot water system, just use some of that. But yeah, take the chill off the water. It doesn't want to be that cold. And if you don't have a lot of radiant heat in the room, it can take a while if you've just watered it with freezing cold water for it to heat up that 8 degrees. So they've got to sit there freezing cold the whole time. They're not going to like that. Oh, Twin Flame just run out of antimatter and dark matter. Yeah, the bigger canisters last a while, man. That's the thing. So, well, I mean, we've got the smaller, we've got the tins and we've got the foilies available now. Which again, even those, especially the Mojo one, it goes a fair distance. But yeah, the bigger ones, you'd be surprised. Probably the one that I go through the quickest all the time is the Green Supreme, because I use it so much. Between foliar and just root applications, that yeah, that's probably the one that I go through the most. But yeah, 2 years out of a canister is pretty good. And yeah, I'd agree, Critter. That is hard. It's hard out there. But I mean, everything's harder out there, man. I'm looking forward to some people utilizing the Gorilla Mix a bit more. So that new blend that we've got of that, it needs to kind of be spread around a bit more. It's a really fun one. It performed incredibly well last season. So I favor it. I like it a lot. It's a kind of a unique blend. But yeah, that might be something you can utilize out there, maybe Critter, to make it a bit easier. Tank Den there, fish tank heater. That's a good one. I like the stainless steel fish tank heaters. I hate those glass ones. If few times I've copped a shock off those. Baby May needs Rhizo and Green Supreme. There you go. Well, we should have it all on the website, I think, at the moment. I mean, I've been working some long hours there, so trying to keep things in stock. And yeah, just good things take time, and so things take the time that they need to take. And so sometimes that means a longer day. There's no shortcut to it, but yeah, we appreciate the support. We appreciate the new stores. As a matter of fact, there's one about to come online this week, which is Tough Love Garden Supply in South Australia. So it's cool to have someone down there. They've got a whole bunch of our stuff, so it should be everything you need in stock. Leon, cool to see you. And Dank Panda, all the way from Canada. How you going, my Canadian dude? How's your grow coming along? Did you end up getting around to using some of the aquamarine? Did you spice up your plants with a bit of the mojo? Curious to see how that's working across border. We still haven't got these streams working on the Facebook page again too, by the way, so I've got to figure out what's going on there. But for some reason it won't let me stream to it through Restream anymore. They're always changing things. Oh, nearly knocked over me coffee. Some people have shared some different tea tips and things like that, like their recipes. So we've tried to incorporate those into the new. So when you go to the Herb Superb page in a couple of days, there'll be a bunch of stuff on there with different recipes, and then some ones that I've kind of been using myself. Oh, cool to see your veggie patches going off as well. That's nice. Even the fruit trees. Wicked. Yeah. I've got actually, all that coriander I planted, like it's growing. Like it's cold at the moment, so I'm surprised by how well it's doing. But I mean, it's going. I finished some blue dwarf corn, which they're these tiny little cobs, and it looks fake. It doesn't really look real. Kind of the bluey, purpley kind of weird thing it's got going on. Yeah, so a bit of fun in the veggie patch. I'm just growing everything in pots at the moment, but it's fun to see what you can do in that. How much mileage you can get out of a pot of soil, for instance. Like I think I had 10 corn plants in a 20-liter container. It did pretty good. Oh yeah, some people doing some enhanced, we'll call it Milo today. Good show. And Dank Panda whacking some aquamarine into the flowering room. That's the way. Nice to see that one. Greened Out team making some extra special chocolate chip pancakes. Papa Bear Burnett, big warm hug for you, dude. Oh, everyone's having a groovy Sunday then. That's awesome. Yeah, I've had a bit of a hectic last sort of few weeks. So yeah, it's nice to sort of take a moment and kind of chill out here for a little while, hide out in the confines of the microbe ship. Ocean's Focus, cool to see you. Yes, this is the microbe ship connection. I can't tell no lie, it was beamed straight down out of the sky. So yeah, I've got to get some qualitative testing done, but at the same time, what I've been doing lately with the nutrient teas, for instance, is just doing basically a 12-hour brew with a lot of agitation. Aeration, yeah, but really focusing on agitating the hell out of that water with the amendments in it. And then what I've been adding to that is antimatter. So, with the idea being that there's a lot of enzymes in antimatter that are not just cellulitic enzymes. So, most enzyme products focus predominantly around breaking down cellulose, so dead roots. So, your roots are made of cellulose. Break those down, convert those into sugars that microbes can then eat and carbon cycle, all that sort of stuff. So, antimatter's got other enzymes in there. It's got lipophilic enzymes, and it's got coffee is not an inhalable, and it's also got proteolytic enzymes in there, so it'll break down proteins and fats as well. So that's where incorporating that into a nutrient tea has the idea being that you would sort of be helping break down and convert over some of those things. So once the antimatter goes into the water, enzymes activate. Enzymes go to work on breaking down the components of those amendments that are in that water, heavy amount of agitation and aeration. 12 hours later, you've got something nice that you can kind of apply to your plants. Seems to work pretty good. The EC seems to go up with the brew from the start to the finish as well. So that would indicate that there's certainly some mobilization and solubilization going on. From Dankden quickly. Okay, would I layer a grow bed or would I fill it with just straight full spec? So in my opinion, like, and I've had this opinion for a long time, I don't really do the layering thing. I know some people like to do it. A lot of people who started off in the early days used to do that. Like we all experimented, I'm sure, a grow here or there with trying Subcool's technique of like a super hot soil at the bottom and kind of not much going on up top. I never got on with that. I don't, just as a technique. So, I mean, no shade if that's what you like, rock on with it. But I think just a well-amended, rich soil top to bottom is the way to go. And in a grow bed scenario, I think starting off with the fullest tank possible is a more ideal scenario. So yeah, I would just fill up that bed with full spec and be done with it. And then it will mean less ongoing care in the long run. So for sort of a no-till scenario, or I don't think anything's ever no-till. You've always got to dig something. Can you dig it? But yeah, one where you're not digging and re-amending the soil on a crop by crop basis. If you start with the full spec soil, or any of the water only soils we do for that matter, so you've got an outdoor bed, then you should be able to get by with top dressing, provided your bed is big enough and you're not completely tapping out the soil each run. But yeah, what I would recommend is, on the first run, you'll probably just get by with a lot of water only. If you top dress a bit here and there, you're going to kind of save a bit of the reserves in the soil, and that's going to mean that you don't have to add as much at the end. So I do recommend feeding even that sort of volume of soil on a regular basis. But you don't have to apply a lot. A bit here and there goes a long way. Dustin, Green Genius. How you going, dude? Off the forklift today. Warrigange. How you going, man? Good to see you. Your stuff looks amazing at the moment too, by the way. So that's actually someone who takes full advantage of the light soil. Is Warrigange. So yeah, if you check out his grows, some photo period grow. I mean, known for rocking the autos really well, but yeah, doing some photos this run and they're looking spectacular, as we would expect. And yes, straight full spec. Yeah, that's the way. That's what I would recommend for a large bed scenario. The light soil one I'm messing around with, I'm really only using like 25 litre pots. So it'll definitely be a re-amend at the end situation. Have you done that before, Warrigange? Have you sort of experimented with mixing a bit of herb superb into the light soil pre-planting and then kind of just going from there? And yeah, it's cool to see you doing some photo period plants. Autos are very in vogue. And if you can grow those to a high level, then you can do photo periods definitely, because there's a bit more, a bit more ability with those, shall we say. You've got time as a friend. It's not the friend of autos. Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't worn the wheels down flat, man. You've been pretty flat out lately. So yeah, Green Genius have been their Instagrams been really putting up some great showcases of our products, and explaining those a bit further, and yeah, pushing those. They've got them all in stock. So Dustin is your dude. Yeah. So the nutrient tea sort of situation is when I'm looking to apply nutrients. So in lieu of a top dressing. And so I'm not getting complete solubilization of stuff in the tea. Not really trying to. What I am trying to do is get as much micronized, fine particulate amendment matter into that water as possible, and break down as much of that as possible as we can, or at least set it up in a situation that when it goes into the soil, it's broken down very rapidly by the microbes in the soil. And you can enhance that further by using stuff like lactobacillus or effective microorganisms, whatever you want to kind of mess around with there. Your other solubilizers, Rhizomojo. Whereas the compost tea situation, I'm more trying to add microbes. So in that situation, I'm using compost castings or even dirt, and trying to multiply the microbes out and apply those to the soil in times of slow biology. So you can use both. You can say prime the soil with a compost tea, so you got high biology, and then a few days later you can apply a nutrient tea. So goes into the soil, very quickly broken down, colder weather, it's a good time. And your top dressings in that scenario go a long way, because as we sort of mentioned before, your watering volume per pot's not very high, and the amount of amendment that you're applying to, like I put a cup in 20 liters the other day. It goes a long way. And yeah, everyone should utilize auto. Everyone should utilize the full spectrum of plants that are out there and available. It's all good. Yeah. So yeah, but at the same time, time is not the friend of autos. They have their own clock, and that's what they run on. So, and yeah, Warrigange just tried the layering technique and didn't get along with it. It's kind of it's a bit backwards to how nature really works anyway. Like normally you have a rich active breaking down top layer, and then it kind of gets more mineral dense and rocky and all the rest of it as you get further down. So having the topsoil layer on the bottom of the pot doesn't make a lot of sense. I tended to find that things got very deficient at first, and then sure, when they hit the well amended layer, they would explode, but it's almost like a slingshot effect. You kind of they've kind of just been struggling along, and then they hit a patch of well amended dirt and explode. So that's where the idea of just filling a pot with properly amended soil kind of comes into the equation. And then you of course get to well, how full can we make the tank? How much reserve can we fit in there? Can we make it like the Interceptor in Mad Max 2 with the big long range tanks on there and go across the whole Thunderdome desert? Yeah, Warrigange runs pots because, yeah, that's one of the things is if you're running a lot of multiple, like different varieties, different phenos, all that sort of stuff, beds are a bit of a hard scenario because of root competition, plant competition. So the most dominant, fittest, biggest organism wins in that scenario. So yeah, it's difficult to have all of those in one bed because one might just sort of overtake all the other ones and kind of steal all the other kids' lunches. Whereas in a bed situation, you can keep them more confined to. In a pot situation, you can keep them more confined to themselves. And yeah, but clones, different story. I mean, there's almost an advantage to running a bed. I don't mind what kind of shape the bed is or what kind of shape the container is. I just like to see a large volume of soil used. So the larger the volume, the better it works. Oh, Grow Green Daddy. G'day, dude. How you going? Yeah, imagine with yours, Warrigange, that you're even tailoring top pressing and various things like that, on a pheno by pheno, variety by variety situation. What's up? What is up is everything, my dude. Everything that is good is dirty, and you cannot make something whole unless you can dig it. Can you dig it? Yeah, I've got my my psychedelic twin off to the left of me on the Instagram. It is that cold that the microphone needs a beanie, man. It is. I was wearing this before I got on. It's been freezing, windy and freezing and cold. And I was messing around with a pump most of yesterday that just refused to work. And ended up finding out that there's like a pinhole in the pump housing. And so it would get up to pressure and then it just sucks a bunch of air in and becomes a very efficient petrol-powered kettle of sorts. It was a fun time. Dank Dan. Got a new setup, pheno hunting using pots, clones in the bed. Man, that's killer. That's so good to hear. Like, Dank Dan is the epitome of never give up, always keep going. Keep digging, man. Yeah, Grow Green Daddy getting the dark matter into some stuff. And Warrigange snowing down there again. Yeah, ski mask territory down your way, dude. Oh, man, I remember so a bit of my family's down Jindabyne Way. And I just remember that place just always just like I've never been into Antarctica, but I'm not a cold weather person. That place is crazy. And then in the summertime, it used to dry out and get hot as hell. And there were these gigantic grasshoppers that I've never seen the likes of them before. Felt like they were so big they nearly knock you off your bike. And yeah, Dustin, it wasn't that fun, man. It wasn't that fun at all. So you're gonna mess around with some epoxy later or something like that. I don't know. I'm a dirt dude. I'm not an irrigation expert or something. But we'll figure it out. There's nothing to it but to do it. We'll get there. Snowy Mountain Hoppers, they're called. Well, there you go. You just kind of answered God, that'd be, what am I now? I'm 36. Yeah, so that's like a 20-year mystery, man. I could have Googled that at any stage, but yeah. We got Cideroon. Am I an AI? Should you be scared? No, I'm not an AI. I'm a real human being. This is me, human being. right here. So you can feel free to interact. And that's on the Twitch there. So yeah, I get some weirdness on the Twitch. But I mean, I like weird. So shout outs to you. Thanks for joining. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things might be AI generated. And maybe in the future there will be an AI generated version of me. But at the moment, I've got to do all this stuff myself, unfortunately, my dude. Oh, I love this song. It's a great song. Grow Green Daddy. Seedlings in solo cups. If the topsoil starts to dry out a bit, you should be watering a bit more often, is what I would recommend. So to stop that, what I normally do is I'll sort of go in and just mist the topsoil, maybe on a daily or every other day basis. So that's what I would recommend. Water a bit more. Not necessarily a lot of water, but just enough to kind of keep that moist at the top there. Does that matter? If you're using RO, there's not really anything you should need to add. I mean, apart from, whatever additives or something that you want to put in there. But yeah, I mean, it's RO, so it should be nice and clean. There's no real need to mess with that. Same as rainwater. Town water, you might have to do some things to kind of mess around with it a little bit, bring it into line. Oh, Papa Bear Burnett. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Yeah, Pete's Papa Bear Burnett's been using some of their stuff for a long time. The sheer organic. I think starting these things a bit late is a good thing. People probably aren't keen to get up too early on a Sunday. Yeah, so that's part of Grow Green Daddy. That's part of some of the recommendations that we put up on the website too, just based on the feedback from the weekend. And watering is kind of one of those contentious things. So when people think water-only soil, yeah, if you're just applying chlorinated, mineralized like hard tap water, it doesn't always work out the best. I really recommend people use rainwater if they can, but that's not always achievable in a lot of areas. So RO is the next best thing. Some of the stuff that's in town water is very tricky to try and filter out. I get good results with Britas. I know that the science on those is a bit iffy. But yeah, they've always worked for me. There's areas or councils where whatever they're putting in the water is really hard to get out. So that's where an RO system sometimes becomes necessary to clean up the EC level of it. The reason that can be problematic is you're adding calcium and magnesium, often in fluctuating amounts, and sometimes sodium too. And all of those cations affect soil chemistry. So calcium, for instance, is going to add buffering. Magnesium is going to affect the interplay between calcium and potassium and magnesium and all that kind of ratio that you got going on, your cal-mag ratio. And yeah, sodium also is going to affect things because plants will preferentially uptake sodium over other cations. So yeah, it's tricky. Chlorine and chloramine you can sort out with a carbon filter for the most part. A 2-stage, so like a particulate filter. I like to run a couple of those if you can. And a carbon stage, that's enough for a lot of people. And then there's situations where that's not enough. But it is important to try and get those minerals that are in that water out if you can, I think. And that seems to be especially important in a water-only or minimal supplementation regime. So you can adjust the pH of that water that's got a higher EC level, but it's, even though you're precipitating some of that calcium, it's all kind of still in there. And then you've also then added acids to the water, which are then going to have, again, an effect on the soil chemistry. So that's where the closer towards pure water you get, the better everything works. Yeah, a face palm there from Dustin on chloramine. Warrigange, yeah, man. I mean, daily is crazy. I can't do posts on the daily. I mean, maybe if that was all I was doing, but you know, I'm always digging. But we love the Microbe Mondays. We actually get some customer submissions of Microbe Mondays now in the DMs, so I should start putting those up in the stories more. But yeah, I definitely could be more active on that. Dank down there, got plenty of rainwater going. There it is. Yeah, you can. I mean, that's a great sort of tip there from Dankden too. I mean, you of course, your rainwater collection system doesn't have to be elaborate. It can literally just be some containers that you put out in the rain. So yeah, I mean, Australia's pretty clean for the most part, most areas. So there's some places maybe where you wouldn't want to be harvesting the rainwater because you've got, you know, industry around that's pollutive, or you know, something that could be of concern that way. But for most people, most places, if you can collect it, that's the best way to go about it. And soil loves it. It loves rainwater. I mean, no surprises there really, because that's natural. It's the way that it works in nature. So it's not surprising that a natural system prefers something more natural. I can dig that. And yeah, you don't need a pH rainwater. Again, there's no need. So you can adjust chicken and egg, right? So effect, I have water that is a pH of 9. Treat symptom with pH down. Temporarily make water 6.5 or 6.2, whatever you're running. But in the process, introduce most of those cations and now acids as well, which are going to have, you know, a much more drastic effect. So, or you can look at it and go, why is the water a pH of 9? Oh, it's that way because it's got a bunch of calcium in there that's carbonate source normally. So let's get that out of the water, and then magically it won't be 9 anymore. So therefore it won't need adjusting. And yeah, that's the go. Just so a little spray bottle in there and just sort of give those a spritz. It could also be an indication maybe that your environment, like the air, might be a little bit too dry. So check that out as well. Check that you're sort of keeping it around 65, 70. That's the sort of humidity that I've always liked in a vegetative scenario. And if there are younger plants, you can even, I mean, 75 is okay. You're not going to hurt anything that way. And yeah, once they get up a bit taller, you can alpha mulch them. I recommend that. Unhazed Auto, cool to see you, dude. I am not Warrigange. That's not fair. But yeah, I mean, water quality matters a lot when you're doing a water only grow, because what's your one input? It's water, right? That's where I joked a year or so ago with the Grow H2O. and said it was the single most powerful additive that you can put in your soil. And it's true, because you water, but without it, nothing works. You literally can't grow anything. So, I mean, if you're going to grow organically, it's a bit more mucking around up front, but sort your water, because it makes a difference. It makes a difference no matter what you're doing. Even in salt systems, they recommend using RO or pure water, because then it doesn't interfere with the salts in the fertilizers. Similar thing with your soil, but it's more about what's in that water going into the soil and the downstream effect of what that causes. Yeah, so if it's getting down into that's what I thought. So if it's getting down into like the 40% humidity, that's way low. So you need it up a bit higher than that. That might be doable in a flowering scenario past the midway point. But at that phase of growth, yeah, you want that higher, man. So get the humidifier going in there and spritz a bit of extra water around. And they should perk up too, sort of pray a bit harder and all that sort of thing. All right, we'll get a couple more in there, and then I'm gonna go and find some more mischief to get into today. The Wizard of Oz. No way. I know you're really just a dude that's hiding out behind that whole thing, man. We've seen behind the curtain, me and the lion. Yeah, mid-60s is good, man. If you can keep it there, that's going to be much preferred. That's probably why you're getting some Kraken and stuff like that. So yeah, just get some more water in there. How's the water mix go? Has it changed? Oh, the starter mix. No. Oh yeah, no. I mean, that was batches ago though. That was like months ago. We changed from using all the really small perlite to using a couple of different grades of the perlite now, which kind of opened it up a little bit more and has made it a bit more airy. The wicking's all still good on it, but yeah, that seems to have made it a bit more functional and a bit harder to overwater now. So yeah, it's a minor tweak, but I'd say you've run starter since I did that anyway, man. Other than that, no massive changes. It's a if it ain't broke, don't fix it scenario, and that mix works pretty good. A fan of it. Oh, Bill's Superb Greens. Master of the microgreens. How you going, dude? I was actually talking to a fellow on the weekend who also does microgreens and sharing some tips that you've shared with me from your operation, how you kind of run your stuff. Oh, you haven't used it in ages? Well, man, yeah, it's a little different now. Not massively different, but a little different. So I find it works a little bit better. Just getting a little tiny bit more air into that helped. The quest was always to try and make like a grow dirt mini me that was for small pots. But you can't minimize everything. So the pumice, for instance, even the fine grade of pumice still has a lot of coarse material in it. So we use a different thing that's I call it pumelite. It's like a kind of partially puffed ore. And that approximates a small grade pumice quite well. It's got really good wicking potential too, so it pulls water through the mix really nicely. It's got it weighs a bit, so it gives the pots a good gravity. Harder to knock them over. But you're getting the perlite right was always a bit of a challenge. You can't use the chunkier stuff like you can in the big container mixes. West Coast Genetics. What's going on? Yeah, so if you're running reg seeds, the starter mix is good. Goes into stuff like solo cups quite well. Goes into which was what it was designed for, going in for, you know, punnets, tubes, things like that. Yeah. So it worked well for that. Good for if you got multiple stages going on. So, you know, propagation area, veg area, flowering area. You can go starter soil, light soil, full spec kind of thing. And that works out quite well. It's a workflow. If you haven't picked up a bag in like a while, yeah, try some out. It's a cool mix. It's like we've worked really hard too on making sure that all the really hard to do, but at the same time trying to make sure that there's no bigger chunks. So I've built some little extra rigs on the mixing equipment now to grade the compost and stuff a bit more finely when it goes in, to try and minimize any little chunks that could occasionally get through. So it's really nicely uniform now, which, you know, we always used to do. We've always tried our best with it, but yeah, it's definitely, I'm really happy with it lately. Even down to 1 litre bags, it's all just coming out really nice. And thanks, Bill. Yeah, we're starting to finally get there with some of the equipment. It's less of a I don't know, like, geez, a lot of these times I'm basically just running around the house, drinking coffee and kind of screaming into the void and trying to plug wires into things that don't work. and then go live with nothing working. So we're starting to get somewhere. And I appreciate everyone's super kind and very supportive. So it's very, very cool. And you just check the tent now, it's raining in there. So yeah, I mean, you might have to do a little bit of put some attention into that environment in there, man. If you're getting big swings like that, like, I know it's a very resilient plant, but something I try and tell people is that you can't expect perfect growth and perfect plants in an imperfect scenario. Things will only ever do the best they can with the environment and situation that they've got. So your plants will always try the best they can for you, but at the same time, if it's if it's not the right conditions, they can't perform to their best. It's kind of like when Olympic athletes go from a climate that they're used to a climate that they're not used to, and they can't perform the same. So you did dark matter on the latest seeds. That's pretty cool. Yeah, see, that's a contentious issue. I use antimatter, and a lot of people will go, no, I use the dark matter. They assure me. But yeah, I normally like to wait until things have got roots, and that's when I'll apply dark matter. So I was putting up some veggie plants yesterday, and dark matter dusted the roots on those as I was putting them in. Hey, Tommy Ill. How you going, dude? Yeah, run it on low and definitely set up that Inkbird or whatever kind of... I don't really get on with Inkbirds. God damn it. That stupid app Wi-Fi control thing they've got just screws up all the time. Not reliable. There's a lot of frustrated brew forum people trying to get those to work properly. But yeah, sometimes they're the best thing you can find. There's other sort of hemostats out there that are a bit more expensive. I guess that's the thing with Inkbirds, is that they're cost effective, but at the same time they've got a few bugs in them. Yeah, how you going? What you knowing? What's growing? All right, we'll find one to write out on today. We'll find something. Hit me up with stuff before we head out. We'll have to wait till next week. Or call the potline 0417076598. Leave a message and I will get to it. Oh, that might do there. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. All right. All right. That's it. That's it. I can't be in here hanging out with you all. I got to go and do some stuff. It's been terrific. Thank you so much. We will see you on the next one. Have a chill Sunday, guys.
Obsolete, never out of time.